Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining up for Blue Take Two. Thank you for joining us for another Mortgage Leadership Outlook. So excited for you to join us. I really, really appreciate everyone who's been joining us, commenting, interacting. So listen, if you are joining us, hopefully you're here watching us live. I would just love if you can right now, share this. Tag anyone who you want to be a part of this. Please let everyone know actually that we're doing this live. We're about to introduce a great friend of mine and a great friend to the industry, none other than Buffy, Christine Beckwith.
Christine, yay!
Thank you for joining us. So Christine actually is someone who's 3 decades in mortgage banking. Started actually from like producer. Like you were originating and quickly just rose into managing positions. Was head of actually a couple of big national brands. Running actually sales, and then just recently, as of what it was about 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
2 years ago. So Christine decided to take all of her knowledge, all of the things that she's learned, all the things that she would exclusively just share with, just her employees that work for the company, and give it open and share it to all of her coaching students through the 2020 Vision for Success coaching platform. Christine, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. So glad to be here.
All right, so listen, I'm going to make sure everyone knows that we're doing this live.
Yeah.
And while we're doing that, can you talk to us a little bit about why you actually got into actually the coaching business? Talk maybe a little bit more about your history, things that I might have missed. We are going to go into your article. I want to talk about, you have a great article as part of your Beckwith blog, where we're talking about actually activities we could do, and almost like just like the mindset that we could have right now as we're dealing with everything with the coronavirus. I'm going to solo you for a little bit while I go invite other people to this.
All right, let's do it. So my name is Christine Beckwith, and so now he solos me, and then right away we have like lighting showing in the screen, but I'm not going to try to mess with it. I'm just going to leave it. I'm sure we're going to have some big blooper reel for quarantines later. It's okay.
I'll come back.
We'll leave it. Either way, one of us is going to be looking like you're busy, or I'm doing this. So yes, I have been doing this a long time. I came up, for anyone that doesn't know me, through the ranks of originations, and I would eventually become an originating branch manager, and then eventually the other roles, district management, regional, national. I wound up in my first highest role would be as senior vice president at H&R Block Mortgage. I was with them a dozen years, and I worked with great people, and it was a very big division of H&R Block with 900 loan officers and about 210 branch managers. And of course, that company would fall victim to the mortgage implosion. And so from there, we would reinvent ourselves, and I picked up a small boutique shop with about 50 loan officers that I would become the ops and sales director for, right outside of Boston in Waltham, Massachusetts. The company was Lentegra Mortgage. And I wasn't there for 90 days when I received a phone call from my good friend Ryan Cuby, who introduced me to Joe Penabianco. And then Joe would come and actually acquire Lentegra. He would actually coach me through my first actual brokering of the sale of a mortgage company. And they would acquire us, and the rest is history. I would spend the next 12 years at Annie Mac. I was an originating branch manager when I started there, and then I became a regional and then a national director of their real estate and sales platform, and then eventually the vice president of sales, and just had a great, run with an amazing company, still an amazing company. And in the process of all of this, in between of those two jobs, I wrote a book. And I sat on a beach for a summer contemplating, the downfall of the prior job and then where to go next. And I really did a pivotal shift in my career where I kind of did a lot of soul searching and figured out that I'm a good teacher and that I have a passion for education, which came hard for me growing up, which I write about in my books. And when I say came hard for me, I don't mean as a student. I mean, getting collegiate funds and things like that came hard. And so I had a real appreciation for education, and I've always devoured it. And to this day, I'm a reader, I'm a learner. And so had a few of my immediate family members get sick over the last 5 years. That really made me look hard at life, kind of made me look at the fragility of life. And I made a decision that I was going to jump into this dream I had of running my own coaching company. And so the rest is history. We're here now. We have 26 employees. We're national. We work with just over 1,000 students and growing. And so, we're doing our thing, I guess.
So, and I'm listen. I'm going to get into actually the article, but before we do that, let's talk to some of the conversations that you're having with your students.
Sure.
So what is it like out there? Like, what are you hearing? From the students, because man, I'm hearing things from all over the place. So please share, the insights that you're hearing from your students.
Yeah. So obviously we've been in quarantine for 4 or 5 weeks in the Northeast up here. And I will tell you that the stories I'm hearing have evolved. If you asked me this question 4 or 5 weeks ago, it would have been a different answer, because we obviously saw the hard impact on the non-QM sector occur. And I have non-QM clients that are still clients. But they're kind of, I use a lot of metaphors when teaching. So I'm going to do that too in answering this and tell you, they kind of are the guys that got ejected from the boat when we hit the first wave of the storm. And, at that moment, that week, 5 weeks ago, it was kind of like, okay, wow, the shock and awe of it all. Right. Yeah. And, we hadn't had the pandemic hit yet. That was literally the beginning of the economic storm that was happening due to the volume and the margin call environment that was happening off Wall Street. And so, what do you do as a coach when that hits? You jump in the water and you stay there with the people, because even though, they're kind of in a really bad spot that they didn't ask to be in, I think one of the greatest things that you can do in leadership and friendship in life is show up to listen and to be there and not allow those people to be alone. So, that was the darkest moment in the last 6 weeks, is that they really took it the hardest. They had the hardest hit. I'm going to give it to those guys. Those guys are fighting their way back. They're slinging a different product. They're trying to find their foothold competitively. They have a lot of hope for where we'll be when this ends. And those companies are staying intact and they're funding still. And so, those are the warriors, and it changed, as the weeks rolled on, and, the next week the Fed dropped the rate to 0, and we spent a week trying to explain to the world why the rates weren't 0. And we had that going on, and trying to explain to our clients why the rate doesn't follow the Federal Reserve was one thing. And then also a lot of people asking, why is my company raising my interest rate, or shutting my lock desk down, or, raising the FICO score on this product? And as we know, with Ginnie Mae's withdrawal and the government backing, it put all the lenders in a risk position. So, what I would tell you is that, explaining, thankfully, having 30 years of economics front and center, I've been able to help my clients make sense of the market. And thanks to people like you and Barry Habib and Dave Stevens and Anthony Casa and Joe Panebianco, and the list goes on and on, that are out there bringing us true, broken down economics, because it can get very complicated. So I guess, I'll end by saying, they're saying, all of them are the same. They're looking for, how they remain relevant. I think a lot of them have grappled with whether or not sales is appropriate right now. And if it isn't, what is? And so we've talked about, positioning yourself as a valued partner. And then I think communication being needed to be higher. I'm doing videos to the student base twice a week on Sunday mornings and Wednesday mornings. I was not doing that pre-quarantine. And I think, I have people on Tuesday night going, are you doing your video tomorrow morning? Because they need that economic check-in so that they can lead their groups and stuff like that. So overall, I think I got a bunch of troopers over here. And if it's a good litmus of what the whole industry has, like anything, they're resilient and they're, showing up to find their way.
Fantastic. So listen, I want to start digging into the in the heat of mortgage 911. And by the way, if I'm going to scroll across the banner here, so if anyone wants to read this, please just go over to the link right there, nmp.com/Beckwith 911. I'll actually drop the link in the comments here too. But so one of the things actually you start talking about the bumps and bruises. So like talk to us about that, because that kind of gives us a frame of where we're at, and which basically also kind of explains the things that you're hearing with your with your clients that they're hearing with their borrowers.
Yeah. So I wrote that article last month. Thank you, first of all, for giving me a column. I've been writing the Beckwith blog now for about a year and a half. And every month I always challenge myself not to be the fluff piece. I want to make sure that I'm really bringing good, pertinent and relative content. And so I hope all of you listening will look. I think Andrew's going to attach the link to the last article. The last article was called "In the Heat of Mortgage 911." And what I did there is I kind of framed up, the economic environment and then the reaction and, the questions I'm getting, whether we're going to get out of this thing unscathed or not. And the answer, simply put, is as time wears on, I think it's obvious. I think the language we had 3 weeks ago was like, this is going to pass quick. Our economy is robust. I still think we're going to go back to a robust economy. I believe that from everything, not me internally. I have a hopeful internal wiring, but my internal wiring is not what's making me say that. I legitimately, based on the economic reports I'm reviewing, I believe that. I do think there's going to be bumps and bruises. Yeah. Reading the Fannie Mae report in April, I think it was Doug Duncan, which is their economic advisor for Fannie Mae. He would say that, home prices, they predict, would go down about 15%, because that's a big question for realtors and for loan originators. Are we going to see an impact? And they anticipated, and again, this is, economic guesswork with some historical data and some understanding of how the markets work. So I just want to, disclaimer that this statement. And I'll say this, they are really good at doing this and forecasting. And that 15% home price reduction, by the way, will be masked over when we roll into 2021 with the natural home inflation that we're seeing in value. So basically, we're going to be flat value-wise. So it's a very small impact there. And that's really brought on by supply and demand. The supply being that the people that are listing their homes in a mindset might decide not to for several reasons. There may be a fear of leaving their shelter, number one. Number two, there may be a situation where they're not sure they're going to get top price for their home, so they're going to hold off and wait. So there's that. So that's the supply. The demand side is obvious, which is all the home buyers that were buying have been impacted by, many, by large percentages, by job loss. And so depending on whether they go back to the job and they return to the income unscathed from a financial reporting standpoint is the big question mark. If there is financial delinquency that occurs, it's going to impact their qualifications, and that is going to result in less buyers. And so that small supply and demand issue will result in some of that decline in value, but not to worry. Because all predictions, and even with the Fannie Mae report, is that 2021 is going to be a breakout year, that the fourth quarter, we are going to be refining at a low interest rate still, and we're still going to be doing purchase as well. So there will be bumps and bruises. There will be some businesses that don't go back. But I think that's a better way of looking at what we're going through than thinking, we're losing a limb or something.
Yeah, and in the article you talked about actually how like where we're sick from an illness, whereas in 2008 we were sick from a mortgage product. I mean, there was a great difference. So talk about actually in here, because you talked about some of the activities you said, what can I do now to help in the recovery effort, and you are a person of action. So talk about actually that to them. Then we'll talk about actually, how to actually fill the gap of where we are today and what we need to do. Taking a page from your wise eyes, not clear eyes.
Well, Andrew's giving away an inside joke that we had when we first met. We're gonna have to go back to that in a second, but to answer you, I am a person of action. And nice hat. Yeah, love that. Very
Thanks,
good.
Jenna.
Well done. Well played. I see my director, my national ops manager, Jenna Baggs, is in the streamline right now. Thank you. Yeah, saying good job. Yeah, see,
my coaster right here.
He's got all our garb there, which is awesome. Action needs to be taken in a number of different ways. First of all, be active. I have two ways to say this. Number one, I said it earlier on a training that I was doing, that everybody's always in a hurry to get to the next thing that they're doing. So I want to caution everybody that we're in a moment in time and we're in history. We're in history right now. And do you want to be that guy? Like, we're always, when we're young, we want to be 16 so we can drive. And then we want to be 21. And then we want to get married. And then we want to do this. And then as adults, we adopt this mentality where we're always going, and we're looking forward to the next thing. And we're not really enjoying the present. So the very first thing as a coach, I would tell you is there is a lot of goodness that is occurring out of this crisis in terms of quality time spent with family. And I think it should be treated with really in the moment appreciation. I think you should realize this is a time that will pass. And so if you hurry up and wish yourself out of this quarantine, you might find yourself in 2 to 3 months looking back saying, gee, I wish life was a little bit slower again for just a day or two or a week, let alone a month, where I could take that bicycle ride at 2 p.m. with my kid, or I could take my dog for a walk, or better yet, I heard what my child said to me. And so I would tell you as a professional and a human being, please embrace the silver lining moments that we all are being gifted right now in a slower lifestyle. That's number one. I always try to come from a people person place. As far as your businesses go, you got to remain seen. And so the challenge from a virtual standpoint is you're sitting in a house, you're not going to an office, you're not bringing donuts and bagels to your referral partners, you're not doing conferences, but what are the other ways you can show up? I think people that are not socially active, I think people that are not technically savvy are challenged right now. And I do see them taking leaps and bounds into maybe Zoom meetings and webinars that they might not have. I bet a lot of people that are watching right now are watching Facebook Lives more than they have ever. And because more of them are occurring. And where are you bringing your news as a national news firm? So I'm saying this, if you want to be seen and heard, you need to speak and be seen. And there's a lot of ways that can happen. You need to decide how you do that, whether it's FaceTime on your phone or using a software webinar-based interaction that you can do it. And certainly, I think, bring value. My final thing is, what do your referral partners want right now? I think they probably don't want high solicitations. I think what they probably would appreciate is somebody that's out there being positive, somebody that maybe is sharing an education or resources that help bring the news forward. Remember that, and I'm speaking specifically right now to the mortgage professionals that are going to listen to this later on the playback, or those of you that are live right now, remember that we are the front line to the economics. And when it gets volatile, it's important, if we don't understand how to break that down, that we know where the resources are to go get the news and share it so that it's a credible source, and we are providing that, because we still are looked at as the vehicles to this information.
Fantastic. Well, by the way, one of the other things you talked about, learning Zoom, and a great time to also plug into podcasts,
yes,
which allows me to do a shameless promotion for the Mortgage X podcast right there. If you follow that link, you can catch the Mortgage X podcast, which is It is one of the greatest podcasts that's out there. It's a podcast that Christine does with our mutual friend Jason Frazier.
Yeah.
So, now, would you say that this is a good time to start something new? Like to get into something like maybe you haven't done a podcast. Have you encouraged any of your clients to do something that would be stepping out of their comfort zone to create something like this, to do videos?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, the tagline at our company is emotional awakening through education. So I want you to understand, when I had to build a philosophy for culture at the base of this company, and by the way, picked this name in 2006, nowhere near the year 2020, never thinking of the year 2020 when it was picked. It's great that it's on the tip of everybody's tongues, but my true to myself mantra in teaching was creating a vision that might be blind to people when they're taking steps towards a future goal that they can't see the mountaintop for. How do you get there? Well, you have a vision for that goal and you walk towards it. But yeah, here's what I want to tell you. I sat on a beach in 2006 at the loss of my job, 2007, actually, the summer of. And I wrote the book Wise Eyes that is now published. And, it poured out of me. First of all, I had the time to do it. So there was some peripheral time, which we've all been given back, commuting, traveling, like we have all this time back. And what do you do with it? Like, I'll admit I've watched some Netflix series and still am. By the way, I'm on season 3 right now of Game of Thrones. So I don't even know how I got here without ever seeing this show, but I'm watching that right now with my boyfriend. So there we have that going on. But we've also seen some other Netflix. So I've taken it, and that's a nice treat. But I'm writing again. And so what I say to professionals is, what is the thing that you want to do? And I'm going to tell you something. There's something special. I really want to impart this wisdom. There's something incredibly special that happens to creation when we are in the broaden and build mindset. So I teach a class in my 24 curriculum called The Power of Positivity, and it's based on a study by Barbara L. Fredericks. Barbara L. Fredericks is a doctor of psychology from the Northern University of Carolina, and she did a case study on people that are subjected to positive versus negative mindsets. And she basically broke down, famous speaker, she broke down that we are living in two realms every moment of our lives or days. And we can be both, believe it or not, in the same day. So if you ever feel like you're fighting, you have the feeling of fight or flight, you're in a negative mindset. So something's occurring that's making you want to run away. It's in the negative emotion spectrum. But if you're in a broaden and build mindset, you're creating, you're baking, you're cooking, you're doing a honey-do list at home right now, you're writing, you're reading, you're painting, whatever that is, you're building on your business, you're building on your business plans. That is called the broaden and build mindset. And the broaden and build mindset can only happen when you are in a positive mindset. And so the whole study is really interesting, because what she says is they ask the students that were in the study. By the way, these students were in closed group environments of either negative or positive environments. And then it was studied for a 10-year period. And so the effects of the people that chose positivity, they made choices daily, reading, exercise, how they ate, all those things. Those people actually have better health, better businesses, better relationships, and so on and so forth. So I teach that technique as one of the core 24 EQs in my system, because I do believe at the base of everything we do, to be successful, you have to know tactics. Like I need to know how to overcome pricing objections in a sales call. That's a tactic. But I need to be able to obviously manage my life in such a way that it's emotionally intelligent.
All right. So with those two realms, there's those two conditions. If you are positive or negative, so let's say you are doing mostly non-QM business. You've got you have someone in your family is sick that you have to, and you're worried about them right now. So you have a lot of negativity, and your business is just not doing great. How do you what do you strategically tell a person like that they're going to do differently tomorrow, that to get them out of that negative state and back into that positive state where they're creative, where they're thinking of things and being a more positive person?
Yeah. So the very first thing that you have to do is be aware that you go to a negative mindset. So I did not know until I read the study that I can think of months I lived in the fight or flight mindset, where I was upset about something that was happening at work, or I was upset about something happening in my personal life. Of course, the study says, and of course life tells us, that we can't avoid a negative spectrum. We're not going to get out of this world without hurt and harm, and unfortunately, all the culprits that bring us to a negative mindset. People that are suffering illnesses, people that are losing loved ones, people themselves that are fighting health issues, divorce. So there's just a lot. There's stress, of businesses. And so all of these things are happening. And sometimes based on our personalities, it doesn't even need to be big things like that. It can be just like someone arguing with you at work during the day, and they just set you off and they put you in the wrong mindset. So the very first tactic is to recognize, I feel like, running or fighting. So if you feel like you're in fight or flight, you recognize that you're in that mindset. How quick can you shift? So I'm a hot-tempered Canadian girl. So what I'm going to tell, born and raised here in the US, but, French background. And I will tell you that, I have a mindset where I've got to put myself in the timeout, and I've got to really work to get myself from a place when I get over there in that fight and flight mindset, depending on what put me there. And it's a process for me. And sometimes I've learned I lose the day. So I want to explain. I'm offering myself vulnerably to say I've literally had something throw me off at 3:00 in the afternoon that I couldn't recover from in a single day. And I had to step off from work. And, you lose production when you're in this mindset. And here's the best thing you can do, though. If stepping away is your best processing mechanism, if unplugging yourself is truly the best way to quicken the process, because sometimes we stay in that place and we do further damage, because when we're in the fight or flight mode, we're kind of running around the office, and the first thing we might do is stop the first people we see and relent the situation we were just in, and now we're spreading the negativity. And so, I put myself in a protected place. And when I say that, I'm speaking figuratively. I just remove myself from the environment that I'm in, and I let myself shift. What do we do when our kids fall and bump their heads? As parents, we quickly learn not to do the shock and awe thing, because that's going to give permission to the child to scream. Right. You're going to just,
as my wife, I'm shocked and I'm like, ah!
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're going to react in one of the two ways. And so we kind of train ourselves how to react emergently. And so what I would tell you is pivot. You have that word's a big word this year. I think it's a big word this month, and you have to pivot. And so, sometimes it's for me letting myself disconnect, just totally getting away from the work, going to sleep, waking up. And I always wake up the next day with the mantra of it's a new day. So I teach renewal tactics in EQ. And, we got to turn the page. And a lot of days we can correct, yesterday's woes with a new mindset today and start fresh and paint a new canvas, I guess.
Yeah. So sometimes you're going to say, okay, listen, this day is full of negativity. I'm going to throw the towel on this day and immerse myself in catching up on Game of Thrones. And know, actually, tomorrow's going to start, and I am going to kick butt today, tomorrow, but today, especially because we're dealing with so much today, which it's great. Actually, my dad wrote this. I guess the road to PMA, positive mental attitude, includes some suffering that helps one to reach the positivity.
Yes. Hi, Joel, by the way. Thank you for everything you've done for me and letting me write in your wonderful magazine. I would say, yes, you can't get from point A to point B without a nice, without recognizing that there's suffering that goes on. Life is suffering, I think, in a lot of ways. I think I look at it kind of funny, because I feel like we are going to have things that happen we can't avoid, that are out of scope, that are going to happen to us. So think about all the things that draw people negatively that we do control. Choices we make in the way we react to things, choices in our ability to self-recognize maybe that we're getting sluggish. So we counter that with exercise. All of our life requires some self-ability to self-correct and align ourselves, with the things that we need to do. It's so easy to say, like, we're in quarantine and, waking up every day, our workouts are not the same as the gym. Let's just say it like it is. You can't do what you do at the gym, and so we're doing whatever, and we're doing the best that we can in that realm. So, I also want to give a tip. I think that right now, what I think all of you should do that'll give you some accelerant, but also give you the freedom to enjoy this environment of being with our families and maybe not working 14-hour days, is recognize when you have a high energy moment and really ride that out. Here's where we go wrong in life and I call those work bursts, BURSTS, work bursts. If you wake up and you just are feeling good and today's the day and you have the high energy and you lock yourself in, if you told yourself you were going to stop working at 2, maybe reconsider.
Yeah.
Because you may be trading off your high energy, positive mindset day that you're having, which is great, to take the break or to stop working if you choose to. But what if while you're in that mindset, you said, I'm just going to stay here, and you work till 6 or 7, because you might wake up the next day feeling sluggish or not feeling great. And I'm going to say this too. I think there's a lot of people at home that have had the coronavirus that have not gone to the hospitals and said so. Yeah. And I'm one of those people too. I was very, very sick coming off my 2 weeks. I'll say this is the first time you heard it here on National Mortgage Professional News. This is the first. I know, right? I know. Let the news wires blow up now. I didn't want to be the one leaving the 5,000 people that I did selfies with over the 3 conferences to say that, I didn't want to be the Christine Beckwith was the reason that anybody from, and I won't name the conferences, got sick. I later found out there were a lot of people that did. But this is what I believe. If you're one of those people that did get sick, we already know that one of the components is sluggishness or losing energy fast, running out of energy quickly in the recovery. So work in the work burst. I will tell you, I added a cup of coffee to my afternoon. This might be an all, I say coffee because it's obviously a more holistic way of getting a little bit of extra energy. And I'm not going to say other vices that I could say, like a 5-hour energy or something that might not be healthy. But I would tell you that, let that pocket of high energy ride out. Because you may do 2 or 3 days worth of work in the work burst pocket you're in. I had a night the other night last week where I worked till like 8 or 9 o'clock. It was like 9 o'clock when I stopped writing. The next day I woke up and sure enough, I wasn't feeling great. I had to work. I had meetings and all things to do. But I found that in between the meetings, I wasn't accomplishing a lot. The prior day, I had been out in front of the parade, marching like a queen. And I had gotten a lot done, and thank God, because it actually carried me that day because of how much I did the prior day and allowed me to kind of get back to that mindset. So work burst, people, put down the work burst and you'll get from Monday morning to Saturday somehow.
All right. You like my breaking news ticker I just put in there? Breaking Beckwith had the CV, maybe.
Yeah.
A little
exactly.
Fake news there, but something well, first off, I just want to know if we can get feedback from people that are watching this right now. If you've had a bad day, I want you to admit it. To talk to us right now, just give me a thumbs down, write negative. Just let me know. Actually, if you can openly admit that you've had bad days and you've pulled out of those bad days, whether it's actually found something to be positive about, or actually you've just said, I'm done. I'm plugging into Netflix and chilling for the rest of the day. But so one thing that's interesting, and I've heard this actually, for a lot of producers, whether it's actually people actually that are managers, or the recruiters, or originators. And I'm the worst person to give sports analogies. I know almost no sports other than hockey a little bit. But they talk about runs. They talk about actually when you go on actually these runs in bad basketball, and you know, you all of a sudden you get a handful of shots in, and you just keep going until you burn out, and just keep going in. And I think that's a great thing, a great feedback to do. And we got a couple of comments that are coming in here. All right, so Dave wrote, there's also opportunity in adversity. Having a positive attitude will help you grow through any crisis. Yes, 100%. Thanks for being such a positive advocate for our industry. Yes, Christine, thank you. And
thank you. And
we go for
I like Jenna Baggs. Sorry, she wrote, I took a 30-minute timeout last week and it worked great. I learned from the best. I may have even been the cause of her 30 minutes. Not only did she do the technique, but I might have been the reason that the technique was needed. Hello, everyone out there.
So I want to know. It's funny. Erin wrote, very difficult focusing lately.
Yeah.
So can you talk about that? And there's some other great comments here. Thank you everyone for sharing. But so how do we stay? Jenna says no, that's not the case. But if you can tell, so how do you stay?
Yeah.
So here we are.
First of all, hello, Erin Carvelli. I love you. You know that already. So incredible professional and top producing originator right there. And a great question. You know, very difficult focusing. I agree. You know, first of all, let's just think about this. You know, we have way more responsibility right now. Our kids' education, for one, you know, we're suddenly the teachers. We've all given ourselves the grade on how well of a teacher. And I understand that's different in every household. There's some people that this is now their half-time job, which is completely derailing to anybody that's productive, to help your young children get on Zoom calls and to be doing fractions and, you know, all these things that we haven't been doing forever and all that. So there's all of that. But I think it's natural. First of all, I try to remember in a crisis mindset that there is this bigger than usual squirrel in our peripheral, or butterfly effect, or whatever you want, that's drawing our attention. When 9/11 occurred, and I understand that's a very different tragedy, but when it occurred, I couldn't peel myself away from the television for a long period of time. And I think it's natural for us to want to gather as much information as we can to understand. And so now let's look at, you know, the underlying thing is, you know, you have business owners that are asking me, like, Christine, how do I keep my people focused? And then I have business people that are like, I'm not able to stay focused. And I want to just say this for somewhat of this. I think it's okay for you to give yourself a small timeout right now on what we need to focus on. I think we do need to understand what's happening around us. I think the need for us to watch the news a little bit so that we understand the numbers, where the evolution's happening. We have all kinds, I see all kinds of new language, the flattening of the curve, you know, all these things.
The new norm.
Yeah.
Abundance of caution.
Yeah, all of that. But also, let's just talk for 30 seconds, because I don't think anyone's given us permission to do this. And I'd like to stay true to my authentic coaching and tell you that what we're witnessing is traumatic. Like, there are people really losing their loved ones. And when you go on the news and you watch it, so I get it. People are going to say, don't watch the news. Well, then you're not informed, you know, and I think information helps us control fear. But I think while we're in this crisis, it is unnatural for us to be at home and unable to leave. And so, you know, I realize there's a lot of people with loose boundaries in terms of the leaving the home thing. And then there's a lot of people that are really taking that seriously, and they're only going to the store for groceries and you know, very limited. We don't realize how much we leave during the day, maybe multiple times a day. And so if that's now relegated to 2 or 3 times a week, we're living in an unnatural state. And I think if you're living in an unnatural state, how could we possibly have the same level of focus that we did? So I'm going to draw back on the previous, you know, advice and tell everybody that if you find yourself really having an ADD moment, ask yourself what's distracting to you. It might be, you know, I've had a nagging thought here and there, like I want to talk to my parents, or I want to talk to my sister, or whatever. And when that happens, go cure the thing that is drawing you away. And, you know, if you have a schedule that allows you the flexibility to walk away from your desk and take a 30-minute phone call that's bothering you, you're worried about this person, that's the focus distraction, then check that box off. Go make that phone call. If you are wondering what's going on in the world and it's behind your mind, or you want to know more about what's going on with your company, I suggest you reach out. And, we teach in the Blueprint for Success, one of the tactics is overcoming hurdles. And the technique is describe your hurdle and then prescribe the remedy. We're great at giving each other advice, by the way. Very hard at taking it for ourselves. So when we write down what our obstacles are, if we also looked at that same list as if someone else wrote it to us, we would be full of great advice on how to overcome those obstacles. I promise you. So you have to play like a little bit of a trick on your own mind to answer those things.
Wonderful. We're going to go back to some of the comments here.
Okay.
So Sarah Meyer had a lot of bad days, but plugging away and trying to find positive in each day. We had a great point. And even better point, Eric Peck, Andrew does not know sports. Man, there's
Hi, Eric.
nothing is truer than that statement.
Let's talk football. Eric, is that what you want me to do? Turn the conversation around and interview Andrew for football stats or something? Like, we could totally do that. I can hold my own in a football discussion, I think. Yeah, but anyway.
Even my selected sport of hockey, I know just enough about actually the last Islanders game, and that's it. And Vicky wrote this. One day I decided not to work, and that helped. A day on the couch, a little self-indulgent therapy. I think actually that's there's nothing wrong with that. One thing that helped is stop watching the news. Like Christine said, there are certain things that we need to do so we're aware. My only news I listen to is I have the Flash podcast that I listen to every day. I got a couple of news sources I get from there, and other than that, I turn it off and stay a blind eye to it, unless actually Barry Habib is talking about it or someone else, one of our other industry leaders is talking about it. It does not help me. Every time I'm happy day, I open the fridge, not to eat, but eat and be thankful for all the food we have. Keith.
Yes.
Yeah. Great point. Got Paul Jones, my buddy Paul Jones. On my bad days, I find it helps to list previous accomplishments and build a detailed plans for tomorrow based on lessons learned along the way. Turn the page. Yes. Oh, I love that guy.
And making that list, by the way, Paul Jones, is absolutely one of the greatest things that you can do for yourself, because literally there's an article I have on LinkedIn called Journaling Your Way to a Stress-Free Mind. If you go over there and find me, you'll find it there. It's one of like 16 articles that I have in the LinkedIn article section, not to be confused with my editorials or magazine articles. And it's there, and it talks about like what happens with your mind when you like swipe something left and erase it. Like, our phone sends us notifications and it can be very stressful. I'm sure if we were ever hooked to a monitor and we watched what was happening as emails were coming in and notifications were coming in, well, our mind is sending us reminders all day too. And so what I find is I have so much coming at me. It's kind of like when I'm working today, if I'm going from meeting to meeting to meeting, I equate it to like, there's still balls being thrown at my head, and I can't really play dodgeball while I'm trying to run a business. So I have to have something up, some shield around me. And it might be my out of office assistant. It might be whatever. But one thing is a list. If I, at the end of the day, can take 20 minutes and all the scraps I found around me that I didn't get to, if I can just organize it quickly and even respond to a few people and say, I'll get to you tomorrow, or I'll call you in the morning, I can shut it off and walk away without a lot of angst. But anyways, there are techniques that we can do, and writing a list is certainly one of them. Hey, Alexandra Ehrlich, I see you out there.
So, and Alexandra says all the amazing memes and inspirational stories that you post, Christine, are a perfect way to regroup. So yeah, so follow Christine. And I know you're capped as far as being with new connections, but we can still follow you on LinkedIn and on Facebook, so we can plug it to your world. And obviously, the 2020 Vision for Success coaching page has got actually some great videos on there. So. Yeah. I want actually to, so I know actually a lot of the work that you do is with top originators, top producing originators, but also a lot of the work that you're doing is with the executives that are leading these organizations. So can you talk about maybe some tactical ideas that you've given, these executives on how they can actually embrace the work from home, especially when most of them were like meeting in offices. I know you've had a virtual company for your entire existence, but
Yeah.
you were not always virtual. And that being said, most of your clients were probably just most of your. I'm sorry, I got a little distracted. Berman
I
is
see
just
Fraser's saying you're not good, but I'm great. So he's doing his job.
ban
Thanks,
him.
Jason. No.
Where's the button on this to ban Jason from this?
We already dropped your name too at the beginning of this call for sure. We couldn't have said it otherwise.
For Jason's benefit, we'll throw that scroller across there. Okay, okay, Jason.
Yeah. So to answer you, what am I saying to the executives? How are they holding up all of that? So I'm really grateful for having served in a senior leadership role that I am in a community of elite executives that, of course I get to coach with a lot of them, but a lot of them, I'm talking to get their economic insight for my own coaching company, and vice versa. They're asking us for advice and for tools and things like that. I think they're just trying to keep high communication. I think they're, most great executives that I see them all. There's too many to name. I wouldn't even attempt to, but I see you executives out there of trade organizations and magazines and lending institutions, and the ones that I'm obviously talking to, and they're showing up. They're doing more communication than they ever normally do to their whole employment base. They're telling them what's going on. I think they're doing a really incredible job of taking very difficult economic news and breaking it down. They're bringing resources in. I've shared Barry Habib and Anthony Casa, I can't tell you how many times, because quite frankly, those guys do an incredible job breaking down the economics to a layman level of understanding. And so, communication is number one. Number two, the virtual world. You brought it up. I built 2020 to be virtual. I feel really grateful because I knew that there was no way I could teach all that I knew in coaching sessions, when coaching sessions a lot of times are relegated to talking about what's going on right now in professionals' worlds and the things that they need. We have accountability coaches for that reason. We have peak performance coaches that can help you with health and wellness. We have all these different types of coaches, growth coaches. We have relationship coaches. We have origination coaches. And when they need the different things, they plug into all those areas, and then they do their virtual training on the curriculum. But, our guys are lucky and spoiled in some ways because they were already learning how to be virtual. They were on social media. They were learning videography, and they were in the places where they could be relevant and bring their information forward because they were learning those tactics already. And we provide them content. And that's not to, pitch 2020, but it's just to say, I wrote in Wise Eyes in 2006 when I had lost my job from all those years and put all those people out of work and was part of the group of managers that went around and said goodbye to 1,200 employees in the saddest, darkest moment for me of my career. And I literally sat there and I wrote the words, "If you do not evolve, you're dying." And those words are forever written in my book, and they're true to me today. If you're not evolving, you're dying. And so I would tell you, I'm older to be technologically savvy. Anyone on my team would argue with you that I'm horrible at certain technological things. So I have wonderful people behind me that help me be that way. But in our space right now as mortgage professionals, if you are not seen and heard where the audience is, and last year, 29% of the home buyers were millennials. And when you examine that group of people, and they predicted this year would go as high as 45%, and for the first time, they have the largest percentage of home buying power of any other generational group. And, they are watching on social media. So if your advertising isn't there, then you're missing your audience, the largest part of the audience in the mortgage world. And so I guess I would just tell you that the executives are trying to make sure that the resources are available. And some companies are better than others at this because they're more positioned to supply those tools. than others. So, but they're getting there real fast, you know.
So engagement with your content. I know a lot of so you have like a system that allows people to basically almost buy like a virtual Christine Beckwith. So have you been seeing a lot more engagement with actually your online tools?
Yeah. So our tools, yes, we have, because I think people have time right now and they're receiving and eating up the content because, that's a challenge in their busy lives to do. We have, a couple of curriculums a month that they're in a digital dashboard that they're moving along, watching. And so now they're doing more of it. But our content actually has a two-prong approach. Number one, it's education for the loan originator or the mortgage professional, because we deal with a lot of business development managers and a lot of sales managers and branch and regional managers. But once they have watched and passed any one of the curriculums, they are allowed to play that curriculum as a trainer of it to their referral partner. So it becomes content for them. And so I would just tell you that it's useful in two ways. They consume it for their own minds and businesses and apply it. And they actually have a cadence. So when they're learning, they're coming into mastermind groups after, and they're talking about the techniques that they just learned, and they're sharing with other professionals the implementation of these techniques. And they follow that cadence along a path for the year. They do personal self-development coaching. They do virtual training. And they also do group training. And so they attend live webinars if they choose in our community, but they have like this whole menu of stuff that they can do. We have a reading library that's super robust. We have social media content curation by professional editors, so they don't have to buy Jungo packages. Our master's group has media support. They have full-time graphic designers that create social media badges and things for them, so they don't have to go buy media packages. So yeah, anyways, I'm going on and on.
This ain't your grandpappy's coaching program.
It's not.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, listen, and really these are the things that you created because you knew as a manager, as someone actually who you had hundreds of originators reporting to you. These are the tools of success that you developed. Yeah. And you just were selfish before, only sharing them with your company, and now actually they're available for everyone. So listen, I mean, just thank you for continuing to be an amazing inspiration. Please, if you're watching this, make sure actually you seek out Christine, follow her on LinkedIn, follow her on Facebook, follow her company page. Just some great inspirational, as I forget actually who said that, but they talked about actually oh, there we go. Let's go back here. All of the amazing memes and inspirational stories. Is it a meme or meme? Meme?
Yeah, it's meme, I think.
Okay.
I used to call it a meme when it started, and my son freaked. He's like, "It's not a meme." That was years ago. I got over it quickly, but he's like, "It's not a meme, it's a meme." Oh, so cute.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right.
There's my nephew, Tyler Truffrey. Hi, Tyler.
Oh, hey, Tyler.
Shout out on Facebook Live. Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. You've been an incredible partner. And I'm sure it's challenging for you as well right now. The news, I think that when it really gets hard to tell the news is when you are in a crisis situation and you're deciding every day, what is the proper consumption? What are the stories we need to tell? What is good? Are we contributing, positively or whatnot? And as long as I've been a professional following, National Mortgage Professional and Mortgage News Network, I've always felt informed. You guys are always out there where we need to be. You're here now. I'm not surprised at all. We're not at conventions like we thought we would be. I had 9 speaking gigs that I was doing in March and April that are gonzo. And you know what? It's okay, because I replaced them with things like this. And I still feel relative. And, I just want to thank you on behalf of the entire mortgage industry for, bringing us the news. And I know I'll keep tuning in because I need to, have that information to bring back to the professionals that I'm coaching. So anyways.
Fantastic. Wonderful. All right. There's one little closing message from Tyler. Christine Beckwith is an inspiration to us all, and it's truly great that she does what she does and provides us with the tools to succeed. Amen. Amen. Fantastic. All right, Christine, stick around for a minute. I'm going to take everyone out here. So listen, thank you for joining us for another great episode of the Mortgage Leadership Outlook. So I'm just going to tease actually some of the amazing guests that we continue to have that we are just blessed with. So tomorrow, Robert Stevens from GSF is going to talk a little bit about how he's using this time to create inspirational messages. I'll talk a little bit about his construction of permanent product that they do through GSF. We're going to talk about that. Then on Thursday, so excited, David Schroeder, who is the head of third-party originations for Caliber. He's joining us next week. We have another unbelievable lineup. Carissa Robb, who is she's the president for a company that does artificial intelligence for servicers, and she's had a career of just working with servicers, working in the loss mitigation default departments of these servicers. Then got Matt Ishbia coming up, got Jerry Schiano, and then another surprise guest that I can't reveal just yet, but we will let you know. Should let you know tomorrow. So watch us tomorrow every day, 1 o'clock Pacific time and 4 o'clock East Coast time. We're going to do this every day, Monday through Thursday. So thank you so much for joining us for another Mortgage Leadership Outlook.
Thank you.